Alright, so today we're going to talk about multi-section solids and this one down here, removed multi-section solid. They work on, they're a little bit more advanced. They work by creating multiple different planes out here, and you draw a different shape on each plane, and it's pretty cool. It'll blend between them. It's a little bit more complicated than the other ones, the other items that we looked at in the previous videos, and I don't really think that there's going to be any way that I can go through this without having to touch on some of the more advanced features as well. So I guess just bear with. It's not terribly too hard. Some of the stuff can be a little bit confusing, and also as with many things in CATIA. There's certain elements that don't seem to do anything. You're looking at a window and certain things might not seem to do anything when you're working on the part, because you need to have a part of a certain style with certain features for other things to possibly even take effect, if that makes any sense at this point. So to get started here, the first thing you want to do is make a bunch of planes. You don't really just pop on in here and make a multi-section solid the way you would with a pad, as far as just grab a plane and go. You have to know a few things about what you want to do beforehand. So for example, I'm going to make some planes, and as we've done in the other videos, if you know you're going to make a bunch of points, lines, and planes, add in a geometrical set. And this one here, I'm going to go ahead and name it planes, because that makes stunning sense. Notice the underline is in the geometrical set, so all the planes will be made in there. Well, we also learned before. Alright, so we're going to make some planes. We're currently in millimeters. If you want to check that, you can go to Tools, Options. You can see all the various, well, these are the workbenches, and there'll be all the options for the various workbenches. The units that you're working in is kind of a general thing, for the whole of the CATIA interface. So that's where you're going to find it. Parameters and measures, knowledge, scale, units. It's this third tab right here, and you can change it to whatever you want. Okay, so we'll stay in millimeters. So I'm going to make some different planes here, just to show you different ways that it works. Some are going to be better than others. So for starters, I'll pick this and I'll pick a plane, and you say, okay, oops, wrong plane. Actually, I should probably hit the damn button. Hit that. There we go. So 50 millimeters out. So this is going to be 50 millimeters away from this center plane here. That's fine. Now we get to the next one. We say, okay, we want to offset another plane, maybe 50 millimeters from this one. But did you really want this to be 50 millimeters from this, or did you want it to be, say, 100 millimeters from this center plane? Now that's a choice that you have to make on your own, thinking about the type of product that you're making. Is it such to where that you might change this plane in the future, and you want just this plane to move and you don't want this one to be affected? Well, then each one would be based off the original plane here. If you want this and everything to the left to move every time you move any one of these, then each one is relative to the one made before that. So I'll just keep going with this. So I'll say, okay, there's a plane, and then there's another plane, and then there's another plane. Okay, so now I have my 5 planes, the 4 that I've created in this default center one here. Now, before we just go ahead and jump in here, pick a plane, and go into Sketcher, notice that we're still in our geometrical set. So I can go ahead and go here, and that's the Fit All In button. We'll bring that back. I can go ahead and go in here and make a sketch, and I can exit out, and that works just fine. But our sketch is within our geometrical set. Now there's times where that's fine, maybe even wanted, but in this case, when we make the multi-section solid, it's going to take all the sketches that we draw and it's going to absorb them. The multi-section solid by name is a solid model, and solids cannot go in our geometrical set. So therefore we have to put the multi-section solid in a part body. That's kind of the rules of these things here. Now, all of this would work fine if I just left it as is, but what would end up happening is our sketches would all be under our planes geometrical set, and we would have a single icon for multi-section solid under the part body. Maybe you're okay with that, maybe you like that. I think for organizational sense, it's better, that's an opinion, it's better to have the solid in the part body with the sketches that built the thing absorbed within it. For example, when we made our pad, the sketch was underneath the pad. It would probably seem a little bit strange or weird that you would have just the pad in the part body and your sketch was somewhere else. Now there's some, like I said, people that might actually feel that that's a good thing. You could make yourself another geometrical set and just call it sketches, then you can keep all your sketches there. I find it makes it a little bit difficult to find them to edit them. Anyways, there's all kinds of ways you can do this. So we're going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to define the in-work object as part body. Now anything we create will be placed in there. Okay, so now I can start making my sketches. So we'll hit here, we'll click on this, it runs away. You hit the fit all in button right there, brings it back, and I guess we'll just make a bunch of circles here. So we'll make about like that, exit out, then we'll pick the next. Now we're looking down on our plane. We can see the sketch we made before, but this is not the sketch on our sketch plane. We're just looking through it, basically. Previously, we're used to making pads and pockets and things, and every time you make one of those solid elements, it absorbs a sketch and hides it. So we haven't done anything with it yet, so therefore it's still visible. Okay, so take normal view down here. See that? If you hit that, it'll flatten the plane back out. I remember working on this in the beginning, and you're trying to get used to using the mouse because all the CAD programs are different, or maybe you've never touched one before, and you're trying to move it around, and oops, you twist it a little bit, and now you're kind of off on an angle, and that really tends to bother people that are new at this sort of thing. So it's really nice to know that there is that button to flatten it back out. Pretty much all the CAD packages have something like that. Okay, I'll make another circle. As you get more and more used to the idea of working in a two-dimensional area in a three-dimensional space, you actually kind of grow accustomed to just working wherever the hell you want, right? So I can go ahead and turn it sideways, and you're like, oh my god, where's center? Well, center is right here. This is my sketch. What about these? No, those aren't it. Those are the vertical, horizontal axes for these other sketches. So I come over here, and yep, there's center, and I go ahead and draw it out. And you're like, well, that looks weird. Well, it's a circle. It's just fine. We just are looking at it sideways. Exit out. Go to the next one. If you use SolidWorks, you'll be familiar with the fact that after at least the first sketch, they don't flatten it out. They don't put it perpendicular to your vision. Okay, so the last one here, let's make it even bigger. There. Okay, so that's it. You can kind of see what's developing here. Now if we go over to the tree, we open that up, there's all of our sketches right here. So the next step is to go to the multi-section solid tool. So if you look over here, right now we have only solid, we don't have any solid geometry yet, so the only thing available here in the window is elements that will make solid shapes. All of our negative, like pockets, groove, slot, they're not lit up yet. So we come over here. Here is our multi-section solid, and underneath of this is the removed multi-section solid. We'll pick this one, and we get this dialog box. So we'll go through most of these tabs, but right now let's just look at this. This is your section where you pick everything. Pick the things in order, either one direction or the other. Don't start from the middle, this one, that one, this one, right? So hit here, click here, 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 and there. Okay. If you want, you can hit preview, and it'll show you. Say, yep, that's what I wanted. Hit OK, and now we have a little vase or goblet or something, right? So that's the basic idea of multi-section solid. So what I want to do though now is delete all this, back up. I want to show you a couple things about planes, how to make a whole bunch of planes pretty quickly, and some of the variations in here. We can use guidelines. Spine is pretty helpful. Don't get this confused with spline, the other tool from Sketcher, and also in Surface Design. Coupling, relimitation. We won't deal with the area law. These ones here are pretty common. Probably the most common is going to be spine and guides. Okay. And like I mentioned before, notice how all of our sketches are hidden and they're absorbed under the multi-section solid. So if I want to edit any one of these, I know that they all belong to this. It makes it a lot easier than, I think, than going into the geometrical set. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this and all of our planes. Right. Make sure you watch the underline. Define planes and work object. Same thing I did before. Offset from this plane 50 millimeters. But what I can do is I can check this box that says repeat object after OK. So if I do this, I hit it, then let's look at this window here. It says how many do I want? Okay, well I want 4 of these, and absolute, relative, or create a new body. Okay, so let's look at this right here, create a new body. So I hit OK, and this is the thing that bothers me. Well, a couple things too. I made the first plane, and then it made all the 4 that I wanted extra inside the geometrical set. So one, it envelops that in that respect, and this is no good for me. Probably in all the situations I don't like this, because my thought was, one, you know, this is part of all the planes that I'm creating, and all these other ones here. Right now they look like they're for a separate thing. I would like to have these all contained, and plus I made a nice little geometrical set called planes. I don't need to have another one inside of that one, so I don't like it. The other thing of note is you said how many planes did you want? Well, I want 4 because I want to have 5 total, and that's including the first plane that I'm offsetting from. Well, I told it to make 4, but it made 4 more besides the one that I was already on. You'll see this in a couple other places, like with rotations in sketches versus circular patterns in three-dimensional space. Sometimes you just have to get used to the tool, because sometimes you say you want 4, it gives you 4 more. Sometimes you say you want 4 and it includes the original, so you get 4 total. So it's always kind of been my opinion that each one of these tools was, you know, designed by a different group somewhere, and maybe they didn't quite communicate. So we'll go ahead and get rid of all of these here. Gets pissed about that. Okay, so let's try it again. So we hit plane. Here's the plane I'm off. Whoops. Here's the plane that I'm offsetting from, and repeat after OK. Hit OK. Now uncheck create a new body, and now I say I want 4. Well, let's go ahead and do 3 and hit OK. And now I get what I wanted. This is probably the better way, I'd say, to do it. Alright, so then That's it. Alright, so then I wanted to show you this. If we got all these planes right here, if I double click on this plane, it tells me it's 50 millimeters away from the original. Okay. Then if I hit this one is 100 millimeters away from the original. Right, so this is kind of what we talked about before. They're not chained off each other. They're not created relative to each other. They're created from the absolute center, which makes sense because that one checkbox said absolute. But oops, didn't want to do that. By the way, if you do move these things like this, it's not like I'm moving it. This ends up being a real big crazy issue. I'm not moving this to the side. It's still 200 away. And you think, well, how can that be? Well, this plane is a representation of an infinite plane, so it always stays the same size. What I've just done accidentally by grabbing the move button and wangling it all over, it looks right now like it's all right in row. It looks like I've moved it about, 70 millimeters away from there. But what I actually did is I shoved it way out in space somewhere. You see this? So, yeah, that's kind of a problem you'll run into. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and then bring it back. What I was trying to do, oh, hell, damn, did it again. I was trying to just grab the arrow there so I could bring that out and show you. So anyways, 50, 150, or 50, 100, 150, 200. They're all based upon absolute. Alright, this last little bit here is just to show you, I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but I go ahead and select this, and we'll say 50 away. Repeat after OK. We get this dialog back. We want our 3. We do not want to create it in a new body, but we do want it to be relative. And so what we were talking about before with absolute, it's off of absolute center. It's 50, it's 100, 150, 200. So we're like, okay, great. So if we hit relative, that should be one based off of the other, and then so on. Somebody can let me know later if I'm seeing this wrong, but after all these years of playing with it, I have not even cared enough to dig into it more than that. So if I hit OK, now here's all my planes. If I go to plane 17, 50 millimeters. If I go to the next plane, it's still 100 away from center. So to me, I'm thinking that's pretty much absolute, but maybe I'm wrong here. So that's the way that works. Either way gets you the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on from here. Those are the things I wanted to show you. I think for review sake, the big deal here is when you go to do repetition, it's going to be, the amount is going to be all the ones you're going to add on to after the initial one that you're creating. So if you want 5 planes, you're going to say 4 planes, because in its mind you're already making 1, like plane 17. So then we said 3, and then it added these 3 on here. And then the other big deal is uncheck create in new body. Okay, possibly the create in new body could be fine if you didn't create the planes first. If you didn't have a geometrical set, you just do a whole bunch of planes, say create a new body, and then it will just put it out there for you. But then again, then you have to go back and rename it. So either or. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make another shape, another multi-section solid here, and take a look at some of the things like spines and guides. So what I want to do first is, just to make this a little bit simpler, I'm going to get rid of, how about I get rid of all 3 of these? So we'll just have 2, and I'll extend this out a little bit further. Okay, so initially we'll just deal with the 2 here. Define your part body and work object. Click on the plane, and this time I want to make a square. in this toolbar here called predefined profiles, we have a whole bunch of made up shapes, as you know, predefined shapes. Rectangle, I mean, a lot of people use this one. It took me a while before I started kind of changing over to this one here. The centered rectangle seems to be better for me for most cases. It works just the same way as a circle does. So you click in the center and you pull it out. It creates kind of like an instant mirror here. So anyways, that's over here. So we'll make a square. Let's shrink this down a little bit. How about like that? Okay. Then middle click centers the rotation. Remember that. So I click on that plane. Oops. And now I'm going to make another shape. Something about like that. Okay, no biggie. So I want this shape to go over to that shape. So multi-section solid, I pick this one here, and then I pick this one here. Okay, now we look at it. You notice that they have a couple little arrows with words on them. Get to that in a second. So I hit preview, and it does probably, you know, just about what we're expecting. Alright. So I want to show you a couple variations of what might happen depending upon the shapes of the sketches that you make. You might go to your multi-section solid tool and you go to hit OK or preview it, and you could possibly get something like this. Okay. Or you might get something like this. Error. Uh-oh. This. So what these are telling you is usually that the line that it's using to connect from one of these to the other, what it does, it says, okay, so we got this vertices right here. We're going to connect this one to that one over there. Then we're going to connect this one to that one, this one to that one, this one to that one. Okay, well, what if it said connect this one to this one, but then the next one to pick, what you can say is, what you can tell it to do is say, okay, on this one here, go counterclockwise. So then I want this one here, but this one's going clockwise, let's say, connect to here. So again, bear with me, we got a line that goes from here to here, but then this one here says go to this point next, but this one over here says go to this point next, and so it ends up going diagonal across here. And then this one goes to this one, which then tries to connect to the next one over here. Anyways, you end up with that jumble. So let me show you what I did. These parts are pretty straightforward, and they really shouldn't error out on you. But what you have is you have this closing point 1, closing point 2, and if this arrow gets flipped, this is the direction it's saying. I know it's pointing out, and that was a little bit confusing for a while for me as well, I imagine. That what it's saying is this is the point. The next one to pick would be this one. The next one to pick, go around this way, like I was saying, clockwise. This one here is saying going around this way. So when I hit preview, it's trying to twist the whole thing up. Do you see that? And that's not a real part. That's not going to work. Okay. So if I flip that back, hit preview, all is good. No big deal. Now what I can do is I can go to this closing point here, and I can say replace it with this one over here and flip the arrow. Okay, again, you're just not going to just jump out there and decide to do that for the hell of it and then, you know, purposely, you know, get an error probably. But that's how this came up. Like I said, depending upon your shape, you'll see things like this. And so it's telling you, the first one is telling you that it's just all going the wrong direction. This one here is saying, well, I'm trying to connect this one to this one, but then I'm trying to connect this one to this one, and it's basically telling us that, you know, hey dummy, there's no way we can do this. So go ahead and replace or remove, right? So I'll replace it. I'll put it back over here in the corner. So the thing to think about is, and again, they're kind of hard to see, is one closing point has to be a 1, and then this is going to the next, and then it will compute the direction to go and which one to do next. And make sure you turn your arrow back, hit preview, and we're all back to good again. Okay, good. Kind of done with that for a second. Also, I want to notice, have you noticed that it says this is your spine right here? It computes it. It takes this plane here, creates a line normal to surface, straight, perpendicular out of it, to the next one. You can change that. So that's what we'll do here in a second. Alright, so I guess I could have left that window open. What I want to show you is a thing that you can do. You can mess around with those closing points and direction arrows and get something kind of cool if you like. So I'll pick here, I'll pick here. Now I want the direction going counterclockwise. I want them both going the same is really what I want them to do. But I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to replace it. I'm going to move it over here. But I'm not going to flip the arrow. So it's saying take this one here, connect it to there. Then take this one here, connect it to there, and this one here, connect to there. So it's going counterclockwise. They're both going counterclockwise, but they're off by a point. And so the thing that's kind of cool about this is you can use that to create a twist. So this is a doable part. You could make this kind of neat. So and then if you wanted to, you could add a couple more points here, and you could actually create yourself kind of like the look of, say, like twisted iron railings on stairs and such. So here's where things are going to get a little bit trickier. The reason it could compute all this stuff here pretty easily is because this vertices is right across from that one. That's no big deal. Next, 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 and next. They're also the same number of vertices. So what's going to happen if, say, I take sketch 12 here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. This is the profile tool right here. So this allows you to create, another tool is maybe what you'd call a polyline. As I click, it just keeps going. What the heck? Oh yeah. So let me talk about this. You see how as I move this around here, it's snapping to all these things. Well, it gets kind of difficult to try to find sometimes a spot to click that doesn't make, for example, a 90-degree relationship with this line right here, or an angle with the other one here. So what you can do as you're moving around here is just hold down Shift. If you hold down Shift, now I can temporarily turn off those geometrical and dimensional constraints, and then I can just click. Now I want it to connect back here, but I can't get the dot. Oh yeah, let go of the Shift button, and now I can get right over the top, and it'll snap to it. Alright, so this is my shape. I want to make it a little bit stranger looking. There, sure, some oddball like that. So I want to take this shape here and connect it to this one. So we go to multi-section solid. I say this one to this one, and I go, okay, great, preview. Uh-oh. Huh. And you look at this and you go, well, what's going on here? So, well, that closing point, it's kind of a ways from that one, so how about if I move that? So go ahead and click that over here. The arrow is going up. No, it's not. It's going counterclockwise, and so is this one. So they're actually both doing the same thing. It's just the way that it writes it. I hit preview. No, still not going to work. So you're like, what's the problem here? Well, this one has got 5 vertices, and this one's got 4. So the problem here is we got to figure out where we're supposed to tie each one of these vertices to. So if I go back here, do my preview, you can see it's trying to connect maybe through here with the tangency then curvature. When we change it over to ratio, it's taking this one here and putting it right about here. Down here we have a couple that it's deciding to put it right along this line here. So the ratio deal is what they call curved linear abscissa, and that's the geometry word for it, and how CATIA decides to figure that out. Tangency, say that you had two kind of circle shapes here, but they had some small kinks in them here and there, so it'll put one wherever the tangency, well, wherever it becomes non-tangent. So if you had like a little arc and then another arc after that, and it was just a little bit off, it would figure that out. Tangency, then curvature, tangency, and then also if the curvature deviates by a certain amount, then it'll put a vertices there, or just plain old vertices. These first or last three right here, none of these can be used with products that with sketches that have that don't have the same number of vertices. So if you have different vertices, then you go with ratio, or you add in extra coupling lines. So this though is a good time to show you this other thing. How do we know this stuff? How do we get more answers to all this stuff? And what that is Dassault Systems, when you purchase CATIA, you can get also access to download, or it'll come as a disk if you want, their online, what they call their online documentation. It's all HTML based, and you know, for whatever reason, there have been tons of people over the years that just take those whole disks and they put them online. I used to keep these discs around, you know, religiously, you know, make sure I know where these are. I would often, you know, put them on our own server, just make sure they're around. Over the years, as I found that there's so many people out there that host that already, I don't really care anymore. You can always find the information out there. Now, the versioning might be a little bit different, but for the most part, all the concepts are going to be the same all the way back, you know, for, you know, decade, 15 years or more. So let me switch over to a different window. So here's my web browser. What I wanted to show you is the CATIA online documentation. So if you type that in, you're going to find out that, like I said, there's several of them out here. So this one here is release 20. That's close enough. So I hit that, and what we get is this window here. This is exactly the disc that you get. It looks just like this off the CD. So I say, okay, well, I'm in mechanical design. If I hover over this right here, see part design, so I can click on this, and it's in two windows. Just bring it down a little bit. This is it might for some people be a little bit dry. I love it because it's not cute, it's not funny. They have this other thing called User Companion, where they got this really strange looking comic character that they created to help show you all how to do this stuff. I like this because it says, well, if you want to create a pad, you click on this and it says, here is how you make a pad. And it even has a getting started cat part. So if I click on this, it'll open up this part in CATIA and I can work with it. Many people do online training and documentation wrong. This in itself is, I think it's fabulous. So you say I want to draft a face, I click on that, it says, okay, here's this, so on and so on. The nice thing also is it will go through each and every one of the little tab and check boxes if they're there. So what we're after is the multi-section solid. So if I scroll through this, scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down, look, multi-section solid. So if I click on that, it says I could open up their cat part if I want, but we'll just flip through this a little bit. It says, okay, well, this is how closing points work, etc. Smoothing parameters. If it's kind of jagged, you can smooth it out. And then you say, oh, well, wait a minute. Here's spine. We mentioned that. Here's coupling guides. Coupling. Oh, okay. Well, here is ratio. Here's this curved linear abscissa. The tangency. This is where it says that it goes for. It'll put a line or create a vertices wherever the tangency is discontinuous, or wherever it's not tangent. Tangency, then curvature, discontinuity, wherever curvature changes by too much, then it might put a coupling curve right there. and our vertices themselves. So anyways, like I was saying, these bottom three here, they have to have, all the sketches have to have the same number of vertices. If they don't, then you could use ratio. So my bigger point is, this is the online documentation. I would say that as you're studying CATIA, you keep this, keep a shortcut to this all the time and go through all of it, especially if you're going for the certification exam. Alright, so we're back here again. I think for now this is good for the multi-section solid. I want to show you now how the removed multi-section solid works. I'm going to come back to this because I decided that this would be a good kind of a segue video into a little bit of wireframe. The thing I'm going to talk about later is essentially this ratio deal got it to work. And so we go, yay, it worked. But I found that even though it worked, and maybe it's almost the way that I wanted it, you know, it's just not quite there. So then I go through the trouble of creating my own coupling lines on here. And by the time you start adding all these coupling lines everywhere, that's about the point where you go, you know what, maybe I just need to be in surface design. And that's kind of where I'm going to lead this to. So for now, we'll get rid of this. And we can even get rid of that plane for now. Alright, to start this out, I need to have a solid shape because it is a removal type feature. So just going to make a block. About this. There was a pretty detailed, substantial amount of information on this, or questions on this, on the certification exam as well. Alright, so here's our block. What I want to do is I want to make a sketch, let's say here on the center plane and on the back end of this right there. You might choose that you want to make separate planes for all of this, but for the sake of quickness, I'll just use these flat edges. So click here, and I'll use this tool. So here's the profile tool again. I'll make something like this. I'm going to lift that up just a little bit over the top of the block. Okay, then one here in the middle. Sure, and then we'll put one back here. Okay. So really all the same things as before. We have 3 sketches and we're going to connect them together. They all have the same amount of vertices, so we won't have any problem there. They are different shapes, they're at different heights, so you can pretty much see what's going to happen. This is going to blend from here down into this one here, into this one here, and we're going to end up creating a channel through this block. So we pick our removed multi-section solid. By the way, if you come from other programs or CATIA from maybe 12 years ago or more, these used to be called Loft. This was the Loft tool. Not really sure why they changed it. So hit this, same window basically, hit this, hit this, hit this. Ah, cool. So check this out. Closing point down, oh, it's over here. Okay, so let's hit preview and see what happens. Uh-oh. So what's going on here? Basic shapes, nothing really terribly too wrong with them, but for whatever reason, it thinks that closing point 3 should be over here. So these are all going this way. closing point is on this side going the opposite direction. So it's trying to twist it this way, and also the closing point is on the wrong side here. So don't fret, easy enough to fix. It's usually these two things right here. This is flipped the wrong direction, and or this thing is on the wrong vertices. So we'll replace it and we'll put it over here. So that's good, but this is still going up in the air, so it's saying that it's going to go clockwise with its choice on which vertices to pick next, and this one will be going this direction. Hit the arrow, flip it back the other way, hit preview, everything is fine. So you see what's going on here? Just kind of carves right on through. So hit OK. Let's use some dynamic sectioning. So if you watch from a few videos back, we use this. If I click on this face, and you don't have to turn it sideways, you just have to know that when I'm on this line here, there's a little arrow coming straight out at us. So I'll show you here. See that? You can just barely see it there. Okay, what I can do is I can bring this in and cut through the part. Right? So there's our channel. Pretty cool. Turn that off, and then if I want to, I can edit the sketches that go along with this. So say I'll unhide them so I can see them easier. I want to change this one here. I want to bring them above. I don't want it to burrow its way through. So let's pick this sketch here, and let's bring that up a little bit, like so. See that? Then pick this one here. How about we'll just leave it like that? That'll be interesting. Now we've created a cool little channel through there. Okay, so removed multi-section solid. So really, that's it for the tool there. Like I said, I want to back up, and I want to show you, kind of touch on a little bit of surface design and how you would end up making the decision really to go from part design to surface design. You'll kind of get the feel for this, that there's a certain amount of tools here in part design that are definitely, if you were to make up your own CAD program, you'd say these definitely belong in the part design solid modeling workbench. But then there's other ones that you kind of feel that maybe they were created in surface design, or they're very surface design like, but somebody else made the choice to say, hey, instead of just having it wireframe and skins, as in the part would be hollow, let's go ahead and have the same feature but make it be solid. So you'll see in a minute here that that's exactly what it is. It's just a little bit more, or a lot of bit more, tedious in the creation of the shape. Alright, so we're going to make another multi-section solid here, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be definitely a little bit more tedious. So here's my planes. I'm just going to go with 2 of them again. Now I want to make my sketches in part body, so define that in work object. And this time over here we're going to we'll use the profile tool again here, and we'll make a little bit of a pentagon shape. I'll keep it kind of symmetrical. Okay, so then we'll have this. Then over here, I'm going to make a triangle. I won't even, here, I'll stick it off the side here. There, it's not even close to the same. Okay, so 5 vertices, 3 vertices. So we go here and we say multi-section solid, we pick this one, we pick that one. If I just hit preview, big time error, not going to work because it defaults to tangency with curvature, then curvature. So we change it to ratio, and we hit preview and then hit OK, and we're like, yeah, cool, look at that, it works. Except, does that look like what we would really want to have happen? So we'll back up a little bit, back to when we just had the two sketches, and well, we want to create some guide curves. Sorry, we want to create some coupling curves. So I hit multi-section solid, and I pick this one again, I pick this one again, then I go to coupling, I'm like, let's try picking some things. So let's see, I think I want these bottom ones to connect here. Oops, there we go. Like, okay. You can open up most of these windows so you can see better too. Then we can couple these ones, and then we can, couple this top one. The top one's hard to get at with the closing points on them, so I end up just moving them off to the side so we can get the points. But you can kind of see what's going to happen here is, well, I want this one to kind of go over here somewhere. Oh, I don't have a point. Okay, well, I have to stop, and I got to put some points over here to match the points over here. Okay, so what should I do? Should I go into the sketch and add the points to the sketch, or how should this happen? Well, these reference elements up here that we've been using all the time for planes, this is kind of the reason why you might want to have these around. They're for making points and lines in three-dimensional space. Because I can't, for example, let's just say that I wanted to actually make a line that went from here to over here. I can't really make a sketch that goes from here to here, but with this line tool, I could do that. I could go from here to there, if I can get a hold of it, and I can make a line. You see? This isn't what we want in this case, but this is, you're going to see here in a second when we go to wireframe, that's how we do it. So I'm going to use the point tool here to add a point over to the triangle, but what I want to mention is it's going to be a point on a curve, and so that's usually designed to be a single line, but when I hover over it, as you can see, the whole triangle lights up, and this is because this is it's considered a single thing. It's a sketch. Now in wireframe you'll see that often we might just go ahead and make this line by line by line. So for example, if I want this to be on curve and I want it to be a certain distance or a ratio, it might be a little bit easier, right? So we'll just go with distance on curve. We'll hit this, and what happens with this is we can kind of slide this around a little bit, but it doesn't really move real easily, but that's okay. We can come over here and say, okay, well, I want it to be let's say 70 millimeters away from what? Away from this point up here, which is this point down here under reference. So you can pick different ones, different vertices if you want. So we'll just say 70. And in this case, I mean, honestly, I don't really have to be that accurate. So, so there's our point. So now I want to make a point on the other side. Pick point, pick my curve, get a hold there. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult because it's trying to go over here again. So, but look what we got. Remember these arrows? Honestly, it's the same as this button right here, but you could hit this arrow, flips around and says, oh, over the other way around. So yeah, okay. So there we go. 70, hit OK, and now there's our 2 points. When you get into surface design, line making, point placing, all of that is a lot more, of course, hypercritical. So there's our points. We go ahead and go over to multi-section solid. We pick our shape here. We pick this one here. The thing about the coupling curves that might be a little bit confusing is you do the coupling curves inside of the multi-section solid window. You don't make the lines beforehand. So you just pick somewhere in the window here and I say, okay, well, I want this one right there to go to this one right there. And you might even need to roll it around to get yourself, get your perspective here. So you say, okay, well, then I want that one to that one. I want this one here to that point right there. You see? And this one here goes to there. Now this is the part that I was saying before is kind of tricky. The closing points, it's hard to get a hold of that point, because what happens is you try to click on it and all it does is flip-flop the arrow around. So I'm going to go over here and move it. So there's hide show. You could go ahead and you could try to hide it. So you're like, got it. So I'm going to hide it. And like, oh, oops, crap. Well, it hides the whole sketch. So that's not what we wanted. The way I do it, there might be another way. I'm just going to replace it. I'm going to stick it down here on that point, and then I'm going to move this one here as well. It really doesn't matter where you put these. They just need to be right across from each other, you know, via the coupling curve, and the arrows need to be going, the direction needs to be going the same on both. So I wanted to mention something. In the course of doing this, basically everything's, you know, fairly self-explanatory as far as this is concerned. I had to move the closing points, etc., right? But then I go here and I click in this window and I want to pick this point right here and this one right here, and I can't do it. So then I hit the add button, which is what you're supposed to be able to do. Add, and then click and go back and forth. But in the course of doing this, I've had a whole bunch of variation, I guess you could say. You might even call it a glitch. I don't know. But I was hitting add, and it was creating another second closing point. And kind of, I guess what I want to say is it feels very glitchy. So if you do this and you go to add, see how it's selecting the whole thing? It's going to want to add a closing point right there. What I did is I clicked back and forth. I picked back and forth here. And the add button's here without any of the removes, and then when I go to add, I get my little sub menu pop up, if you want to call it that, and now I'm able to pick this and then that vertices. Okay, so that's what's supposed to happen. The things that were just happening to me off camera, I guess you'd say, I know they're going to happen to you, so that's why I wanted to mention it. So if you're having trouble with that, you go to move these things around, the window loses its focus somehow or another. Just try doing that. Try clicking back and forth and see if that helps you. Hit preview. And okay. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about guide curves and spines. For the sake of time, I've already created 3 planes and 3 sketches. So if I roll this around, you see all the same amount of vertices, but they're kind of up and down and larger from each other. So if I just go and I go multi-section solid and go pick, oops. Hit OK. It's kind of cool, but that's what it does. So it's kind of well, we haven't talked about the spline tool yet in Sketcher, but it's the same kind of an idea that as this thing goes through one to the next, it bends around each sketch. So what if I wanted to do this, but I kind of want to do it a little differently? What if I want to kind of have it maybe make kind of a, I'm thinking maybe a backwards S. So that's what this section is for guides. But I got to make them beforehand. I don't make them internally like I did with the coupling curves. So let me undo here. We'll get back to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm going to draw a spline. So this is the spline tool that I just mentioned. That's this one right here. What it allows me to do is every time I click, then double click to end, I can create just a bunch of wiggly shapes, right? Okay, so what I want to do though is I want to connect it to the edge of each one of those. I'll just get it in the ballpark for right now. So something about like right here. There's a reason I did that right there. And then I'll bring this up here. So something like this, right? Oops. If you do extra like that, hit Control Z, it goes back 1 point. And if I want to clip it at that point there, double escape. If you heard me click there. So take this, and I'm going to make that coincidental with the edge right there, And this one here, I'm going to stick it right to the end. You don't always have to do stuff like this, but in this case, that's what I'm after. Okay, so this will go right down from here, around here, and then over here. And I can take this point and I can bend it around. I'll leave it here. I'm going to add another point here in a minute, but that's coming up. So I exit out of here, and there's my guide curve. Click on the background so you don't select it. Then pick your sketches. And then the guide curve, you have to click right here on that. If you don't click on that, then it thinks it's another multi-section or another sketch, and it's going to add it up here. So I hit this, there's my guide curve, I hit preview, and you see the result. So I think that's pretty neat. So it allows us to, it kind of shears off here. It's trying to make its way over into that, but the guide curve comes around so it gets a little bit wider as it swings out. Comes out here. Normally it would want to get to here as fast as possible, but again the guide curve causes it to kind of bow out. Great. So that's fairly self-explanatory. I want to show you how to modify the spline, and then I want to talk about this guide curve here. So cancel this. So let's say I thought that was okay, but I actually want to reduce this curve here a little bit. I need to add another point. So you go back to your sketch, and what I can do is anywhere along the spline here, double click on it, and it will open up the spline dialog box. Now if you look at your different points here, you can see that that's point 1, there's point 2, point 3, point 4. I want to add one right here, so if I pick this one, it's after, add a point after. So I'll pick somewhere along this line and I'll just click. And that's it. So you hit OK. Now, it always adds this coincidence right here. I tend to get rid of it. It's still attached. Then I can move it freely. I say, okay, well, yeah, that looks about more like what I want. Then you can adjust this one. And of course, you can lock this all down with coordinates. Then when we're done, exit out. We'll click on the background before picking the tools. Hit this one, this one, and this one. Click there. There's your guide curve. Hit preview. And now you see the new shape. Cool. Okay, so now I want to talk about the spine. Not the spline, but right here, the spine. The computed spine right here is just going normal to the plane, the sketch where it starts, just goes straight across. What that's doing for us, and this is maybe going to be a little bit difficult to just describe here with just, you know, me talking and my mouse, but kind of imagine a calligraphy brush. If this is flat, when it goes across and around here, it stays. If you could imagine watching the animation, if you will, of this sketch and this shape traveling down this curve as it gets made. As it travels down here, the sketch itself here always stays perpendicular to this straight imaginary line across here. So again, the calligraphy brush, if maybe I look at it this way, as it travels from here to here, the angle never changes on the of the so-called sketch, I guess, as it's traveling along here. Usually I want it to be perpendicular or normal to kind of this sweep that's happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the spine is not computed right here. I want to say that it's the same as my guide curve, and that's okay. I can do that. Then hit preview, and then did you notice how it changed a little bit? Now as it rolls along here, the sketch the square that's traveling along here and changing shape along the way stays perpendicular, normal, to the spline that we made. So the spline that we made in Sketcher is used as our spine to follow the angle. So hopefully that makes some sense there. But that's really nice. It's a little bit to kind of get used to doing here, but that's the deal. So what I want to do next is I'll leave all the rest of this stuff for possibly another video. I want to leave this. Go ahead, of course, practice all these things here, but I want to leave the part design workbench now, and I want to go show you how to do similar things here in surface design, just as a kind of a comparison tool. So I got rid of everything. I left the two planes and the one in the middle here because I think it will use them. So I want to leave this and I want to go into surface design. Depending upon your license for CATIA, you could end up having wireframe and surfacing, or you could have that and generative shape design. So if I go here, this stuff at the top on my window here, these you can add these in. So if there's workbenches that you use a lot, you can add them. Think of it like a shortcut menu. But just to show you where it's at, mechanical design, part design, that's where we are right now. All the tools that we've been using so far are all just in part design, and there's all these other ones. If you look down here, here's wireframe and surface design. Right? If I come over here to shape design, freestyle, yada yada, right down here in the middle, generative shape design. That's the one I'm going to go ahead and use. It's basically the same as wireframe and surfacing, but with some more tools. So go ahead and hit that, and then here we are. So I was going to clean this up, and then I thought it'd give me a good reason to go over this again. My toolbars are all over the place. Somebody's been using this before. So you go, okay, well, I want to clean it up. I want to make it look the way it did default. So if you go to Tools, when we're looking for changing units and such, that was under Options. But if you want to change toolbar things, go to Customize, and incidentally, this is where you can add those things here to the shortcut menu that was up there. What I want is toolbars, and it's these two buttons right here. I want to restore all contents. So the contents are each one of these things, because if you notice there are the little red X's everywhere. I can close these toolbars. That's especially troubling to people that are new, because you can close them and they're gone. They don't just go jump away back over to here somewhere. They disappear. So you start wondering, where the hell is my toolbar? Looking. Well, you've turned it off. So you come back here and you say restore all contents. Do you want to do that? Yep. And then it puts back any toolbars that were turned off. Then I can say restore position, and now it will put them back to where they go, or where they were by default. So I've created 3 sketches again, and I just want to show you that in surface design we do have another tool. You see my mouse over here on the right. We do have another tool, and it's multi-section surface. So you click it, and well, look what we got here. It's pretty much exactly the same. So I click this one here, I click this one here, and I click this one here. Check the closing points. They all look, yeah, that looks fine. And I hit preview, no problems, but whoa, we got a little bit of weirdness here. But it does make the shape for us. So this is a surface. Incidentally, this curve that's happening here, that would be something we want to clean up. But for right now, I just wanted to show you that yes, we have the same tool, and we can do the same thing. We could spend some time cleaning this up, but what I really want to show you is it's not solid. It's just a skin. It has no form to it. So in order to get this to be a solid, what we would end up having to do is do this, then cap this end, cap the other end, and then you at that point, they consider it to have, you know, one element would be the multi-section surface. There would be a surface on the end, a surface on the other end. There's 3 pieces to it, and you have to join it together. Then after you join it together, then you have to take it to part design. Then you have to fill it, basically, fill it full of concrete, so to speak, and then it would become a solid. It's a lot of long and drawn-out process when you could just go back to surface or part design and make yourself a multi-section solid. Okay, so what I want to show you is the reasons why you might want to go beyond that. So maybe, for example, you're trying to do a multi-section solid, you're using a guide curve, you're using other things, and you just can't get it to do what you want it to do. A lot of times you're like, well, maybe it's almost good enough, but gosh, you know, I'd really like it if we could just do this last subtle little thing. A lot of times that is, unfortunately, the breaking point where you have to leave the nice, comfortable single tool, almost like macro style, right? And then leave that and then come over to surface design, and now we're making the thing from scratch. And from scratch, I mean we're making points, and then the points we connect with lines, and then each grouping of lines we cover, so to speak, in the surface. So that's what I want to show you now. Alright, so I've deleted everything, and I'm going to reuse these sketches here and basically turn them into points. Typically, the strength, of course, of surface design is that we could plot any point, you know, in 3D space wherever we want it. You wouldn't necessarily, sometimes, you know, it wouldn't necessarily be putting, you know, all 4 points, say, right here on a planar surface. But I'm just going to do this just to get it done quick. So I select the sketch, and I'm going to turn it into a construction element, which is just used as guides inside. Wow, that's weird. I can't get a hold of that. Inside a sketch. And when I make the points not construction elements, they turn into little plus signs. So when I exit out, you don't see the other lines any longer. They're just guides to, let's say in this case, hold the points in place. And then we see little stars. So we go into the next one, do the same thing. By the way, when I select everything like this, I'm only getting the stuff in the sketch, the current sketch, even though the other things highlight. It's not affecting them. Okay. So pick. The next one. Okay. So now there's the same thing, but just in a point cloud. So to do this, I need to start connecting all the points. I could connect them with lines, but then everything's going to be very square. So what I want to do is use a spline tool. So we're back to spline again, so I'm trying to enunciate it very clearly. But this is a 3D spline. So I can pick this, and I can pick any point I want. And just to show you, I could pick this one, I could pick this one, and I could pick this one. And it's going to create a curve that goes through all of those points in 3D space. Non-planar, even though it kind of looks like it is. That's not what I want to do, but that's what you can do. I want to, essentially the long way, I want to reconstruct everything that we just did before. So I take my spline tool and I say, okay, I want to connect that to that to that. I think those are my points. See if I can do all this in one take. Next spline tool, this one to that one to that one. Yikes. So this one to here to there. And the last one here, there to there. Whoa, whoa, yeah, not that. there to there to there. Okay, so there's our shape developing. Now we have to connect everything else. Well, I don't need to connect the middle because I don't think we really want it to, we just want it to flow through the middle area there. So I'm going to take the line tool. If I click on the line tool, it'll make one line from here, from point to point, hit OK, and it goes away. I need to create, quite a few of these, so I'm going to go ahead and double click it. Then I can go from here to here, and then when I hit OK, it comes right back again. So I'm going to hit this one, the next one, then I'm just hitting enter on my keyboard so you don't have to hit the OK button. Roll this one around, connect this to this, connect. Almost. Okay, so there we go. Last one done. So there's our shape. It looks more or less like an 80s video game at this point, just plain old wireframe. Now we have to start skinning the thing. We have to start adding surfaces. Okay, so I can start doing that right now, but this is where the organization now we'll look at the tree again. This is where organization in the tree comes in. What I want to do is this one's not really planes anymore. It's planes and a bunch of other stuff here. So I want to close this one up, and I'm going to insert a new one, and I'm going to call this one surfaces. Okay, it's already underlined. So it's a nice containment zone for all the next set of things that I'm going to be doing here. It gets pretty messy pretty quick. There's a lot of things in surface design that you're doing just as a vehicle to get you kind of close to what you want, and then you end up, it's almost sculpting. You're chopping things away and carving holes in things. So we end up with a lot of different geometrical sets. Or maybe I should say you should, because otherwise you're going to have one geometrical set that is seriously, feet long here. Okay, so we're going to make some surfaces now. So to create a surface, we have a multitude of different things we could do, of course, being the fact that it's surface design workbench. But we're after this toolbar right here. And what I want to do is I'm going to use this one called fill. I'm pretty much just going to kind of blow through this because I didn't really want this to turn into a major video on surface design, but because of the way multi-section solid works, I felt that, like I said earlier, it was a perfect chance to kind of touch on this and show the similarities. Also, throughout the course of the videos, kind of the intent of it is I'm going to do a bunch of stuff on part design, then I'll do some on surface design, assembly, etc. But at some point in time, the next set of videos is going to be, how to make a thing, and that means we're going to be in part design, surface design, assembly. We're going to be bouncing back and forth between all different types of things. You use CATIA in its entirety, not just as, not just part design. So I have my surface window open here, and I need to pick all the surfaces to close in an area. So if I look at this part right here, this piece, if you look at this slope right down here, this, and then the slope up here, this is kind of like one skin. So you can start anywhere you want, but you have to pick everything in kind of a contiguous order. So I pick here, then I got to pick the thing that it's touching, then I got to pick the next thing it's touching, so on and so forth. Then when I pick all things, it should say closed contour. If it doesn't, that means that somewhere along the line you didn't get the points connected. And that's really it. When I hit OK, there's my skin. So yeah, I know this is really tedious. I hope you can find some enjoyment with this because I love surface design. It is where I feel that if you have any artistic ability, this is where you get to go from being kind of rigid engineering and plain dry, just get it done, to creating something that's unique and very cool. I'm kind of fond of saying if you can't make something look good on top of function well, you're probably at the edge of your abilities. So you see what's happening here? So I just go to the next. Okay, so there's our tube. It's all closed in. Remember when we first did the multi-section surface, and there was all these extra guide curves that you saw all over the place there? Doing it by hand like this assures that we get exactly what we want. So that's nice and smooth. Okay, but now I need to close in the ends. Go here, here, here. Whoops. Missed something. Let me remove that. There we go. Right there. Oh, I still got something there. Let's remove them all. I'm picking things out of order or something here. Okay, get that one, get this one, get that one, and then get that one. There we go. There we go. Okay. So there's the whole thing. It's all closed in. It's still absolutely hollow. But we can do that. Like I said, we can take it over to part design and we can fill it in and make it a solid. But before I do that, if I look at this, this is one skin. It's fill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're all 6 separate pieces. So what I want to do is I want to join the whole thing together. So oddly enough, over here we have a tool that says join. So I pick that. And okay, what are the surfaces you want to join together? Now I can go around here and start picking all the surfaces, but I think it's going to be a lot easier if I just pick them all in the tree. Catches all the surfaces. I hit OK, and nothing amazing happens. You don't really see anything happen, but if you look at the tree, what it did is it hid all the other surfaces, and now there's this one thing called join. So this whole entity right here is now a singular element. It didn't necessarily really make two things. It just says that this is an incorporation of all the others. I like the fact that it does keep all of these here, because if I want to edit or change any one of these, they're here. I can go back and do this. It's not like it affected change and completely wiped out the originals. Okay. Done with that. So now I can go over to part design. So what I've also described this as in class is you might physically have a workbench somewhere, a real workbench in real life. It's sitting here and it has all of the drills on it. So you have your part and you say, oh, I need to make a hole in it. Well, take it over to the drill workbench. So you walk over to the drill workbench. There's a myriad of different drills there, and so you drill the holes you want. You say, oh, that's good. Now I need to do some sanding on it. Okay, well, that's the other workbench over there, and it's the one that has all of the sanding equipment on it. My point here is, yeah, there's different workbenches, but you pack the part along with you. So I have this part right here in surface design. Now I go here, mechanical design, part design. I click this. The only thing happens is the tools change. It's still surfaces, still the tree is all still the same. I'm just in a different area now. Okay, good. So now we got to fill this thing in. All right, so over here, buried as usual, there is another toolbar. This is our surface-based features. These are solid model things that we can do to, well, surface-based features. I could, for example, I could take any skin and I could just make it thick. In this case, we want this one here. It says I want to close a surface. Alright, so I'm going to pick this and I'm going to say the join one is the thing I want to fill in. But before I do that, remember early on, the thing that we are not allowed to do in geometrical sets is make solid features. So we have to define part body and work object, and then we're ready to go. So we hit this, and here's the thing. I have one thing to pick here. Only one. I can't pick multiple things. So going back to why we did the join, the people at Dassault, they could have easily said, hey, let's let them choose multiple things. You could pick everything and say, let's fill all that in. But for whatever reason, they didn't, and they say, I want one thing to close. Okay, well, that one thing is going to be join 1. Everything highlights a little bit. You hit OK, and it's now filled in. But the deal is, you roll it around, sometimes you'll see like a little, almost like glitchy effect because it's a skin on a skin. It's if you could imagine this, it's a bunch of yellow skin covering a concrete block. So if I come over here and let's see, I'll hide the planes, and then I'll hide all the surfaces, and there is our solid now, just like what we've been seeing before. And so this is really cool. So now we have this really neat, unique looking shape that would have been usually pretty difficult to make in part design itself, but we can start adding on and affecting it. So I know we haven't got to fillets or anything else, but I can start coming around here. I can start clicking edges. Oops. And start rounding things out. I can go through this. I can go into the face of this. This is kind of weird, but I could run a circle right through that, pocket it up to last, right? And there you go. So that's just really a quick beginning intro into what surface design does, what it's good for, also the connection between surface design, part design, and whatever else. As time goes by, I believe you should be able to use both of those fairly interchangeably. And we will, like I said, talk more about that in detail later on. So that's pretty much it for multi-section solid and removed multi-section solid, with a little intro into the hows and whys of surface design. So the next video, we'll probably back up here a little bit, and we'll pick up with the hole tool here, and then just touch on the solid combine. Then I think we'll call that good, and then we'll get into over here what they call dress up features. Other things you can do, like this fillet here, and probably more surface design after that then. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.